Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the DFO Fantasy Show for Tuesday, October 28th. Hopefully all of our Blue Jays fans are feeling okay this morning. I'm sure a lot of you called in sick and stayed up a little bit too late last night. But hopefully we can revive your spirits. Obviously another game tonight, but then a 16-game NHL slate as well as the Frozen Frenzy in the NHL tonight. So all 32 teams in action this evening. Going to be an extremely busy day here at dailyfaceoff.com. Make sure you tune in for everything we've got going on. But let's dive into the news and notes for October 28th. We'll start with the Toronto Maple Leafs, where William Nylander did participate in Monday's practice and will be a game time decision on Tuesday. They're just going to see how he feels today. That start time obviously was moved up to 6 p.m. to try and not conflict with the Toronto Blue Jays. So we'll see if Nylander ends up skating a little bit this morning if we get some word. He didn't partake in line rushes, but was on the top power play unit in practice. So suggests he's probably pretty close. We'll see if he ends up being in the lineup on Tuesday. Sticking with the Maple Leafs, Joseph Woll returned to practice on Monday. He's not eligible to play until November 1st, which is coming up here in a couple of days. So, but he's expected to go to the Toronto Marlies on a conditioning loan to get some games in before he returns to the Maple Leafs crease. The St. Louis Blues, they are one of a couple teams that played yesterday and will play today, second half of back-to-back for them. Both Robert Thomas and Jake Neighbors missed Monday's game. Both are listed as day-to-day, so just consider them questionable to play Tuesday. You probably won't get any word because of the back-to-back until much closer to puck drops. So I would imagine with 16 games, you've got a lot of fantasy options to make up for Robert Thomas and Jake Neighbors today anyways. But let's get to a lengthy update from head coach Rod Brind'Amour of the Carolina Panthers. Start with Shane Gostisbehere. He could return as soon as today against the Golden Knights. He was in practice yesterday. He took part in line rushes. He's also back on the top power play unit. So he looks pretty likely to be back in the lineup for the Hurricanes. Petr Kochetkov also looks like he's going to be back, according to Rod Brind'Amour, very, very soon. Tomorrow could be an option, which means today. So we'll see if Kochetkov ends up getting the start tonight. But regardless, he's obviously very close to returning to the Hurricanes crease and making his season debut. Keandre Miller, who had to replace Shane Gostisbehere on the top power play unit, is now out. He could also return today, or I guess he's not likely to return today, but he's close to returning in the next couple of days. So Keandre Miller, not expected to miss too much more time, but not expected to play Tuesday. Jacob Slavin, he is still a little ways away, according to Rod Brind'Amour. Not expecting to see him anytime soon. And then no surgery needed for William Carey or Eric Robinson, but both are going to be out a long time. So the depth of the Hurricanes being tested here early in the season. So far, so good for them, though. Next, let's move to Washington, where Dylan Strome did not travel to Dallas, so he's going to miss at least one game. It's just a quick one-game road trip. I believe they play Friday against the Islanders. So he's going to miss just one game. He's considered day-to-day, which I think is good news because, as you might have heard yesterday on the show, that they thought this was a pretty serious injury. The fact that they're calling him just day-to-day for now, I think suggests that maybe it's not as bad as originally feared. So we'll see what happens there. Conor McMichael expected to move up to the Washington Capitals top line with Alex Ovechkin and Ryan Leonard. Due to the Strome injury, Pierre-Luc Dubois anchoring that second line with Protas and Tom Wilson. Sticking with the Washington Capitals, Rasmus Sandin was added to IR on Monday. He'll miss his third straight game on Tuesday, but is eligible to come off IR and play as soon as Friday. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. Just sticking with that game for a moment, the Dallas Stars did not provide an update on Rupe Hintz' status yesterday, so he remains questionable to play Tuesday against the Capitals. And then the last bit of news here from Florida is Brad Marchand will miss Tuesday's game due to personal reasons. All the best to him. Florida will also be without Jonah Gadjevich, so Luke Kunin, and Noah Gregor will make his Panthers debut this evening. Very, very thin lineup looking in Florida right now. Obviously missing Barkov and Kachuk already. Tomas Nosek's been out. Now you take Marchand and Gadjevich out. Things are looking a little bit bleak for the defending Stanley Cup champions. But that's going to do it for today's news and notes for October 28th. Now let's get to Brock's lock of the day. we've got a lot to choose from, right? All 32 teams in action, 16 games, a lot to choose from. As always, Brock's Lock is presented to you or powered by our friends at 5v5 Hockey. They got a great prop model here. So you've got obviously all 32 teams in action today. You also have the ability to sort by shots on goal, assists, points, blocks, goals, saves, get props for everything, over, under, whatever you want. We've been doing pretty well on the shot props. We're 4-3 on the season, plus 7% ROI thus far. So we're going to stick with these shot props. We're going to scroll down the list a little bit here where we're going to find Kirill Marchenko with a score of 95. Marchenko just, has been splendid so far this season. He's hit this prop in 7 of 8 games. That's an 87.5% hit rate so far this season. He's averaging 4.0 shots on goal and 7.3 shot attempts per game. So just firing the puck like crazy. And then tonight he faces a Sabres team in what should be one of the highest event matchups of the night. We've seen some games between the Sabres and Blue Jackets in the past, 9 goals scored by one team. Like, these games have just been pure adrenaline, super fun to watch. So it should be super high event again tonight. And Buffalo's already giving up the 3rd most shot attempts against, the 2nd most shots on goal against in the NHL so far this season. So the matchup can barely get better for Kirill Marchenko. I think it's as good as it gets. And this line is sitting right now on most sports books at just minus 135. So with an 87.5% hit rate, I absolutely love Marchenko tonight to hit the over 2.5 shots on goal. I mean, he's averaging 4 shots on goal per game. I just love this prop. I think it's my favorite one of the day. So Brock's Lock is Kirill Marchenko over 2.5 shots on goal at minus 135. Now, if you're looking for a bigger payout than minus 135, stay tuned to the end of the show because I am about to be joined by DJ Bean and Pete Blackburn of What Chaos. We're going to talk about some of the hot starts that we expect to cool off. And then the other end of that spectrum, some of the guys who have got, or teams that have got off the slow starts that we expect to improve. But at the end of the show, because it's Frozen Frenzy Day, everybody loves a good 16-leg Frozen Frenzy parlay. The three of us went back and forth building a 16-leg parlay that you could turn $10 into over $100,000 if we go 16-0. So without further ado, let's bring in Pete and DJ and stay tuned for that 16-leg parlay. I'm now joined by Pete and DJ of the newest Nation Network podcast, What Chaos. Boys, how's it going?
Outstanding. Thanks so much for having us, buddy.
Hell yeah,
brother. No problem. Welcome to the Nation Network. Really excited to have you guys on. I was walking my dog a couple weeks ago, and I got a call from Mike G. He's like, guess what we just picked up? I'm like, I have no idea. He's like, What Chaos? I couldn't believe it. So pretty exciting. Great to have you guys aboard. Nice to finally get you guys on the show as well. So we're going to go through some kind of fantasy relevant questions today. Players that you think, or teams that you think have had hot starts that you don't think are going to continue, the opposite of that. And then we've got the Frozen Frenzy in the NHL tomorrow, 16 games, all 32 teams playing. Over the last couple of years since they've started doing this, you always see everybody's 16-game parlays on Frozen Frenzy night. So we're going to build a 16-leg parlay today with the three of us. But let's start with you guys here. What team or player that you guys feel like have had a hot start do you think is not going to continue moving forward?
Well, we don't think Jack Eichel's very good, so this is crazy that he seems to be putting up good numbers. I kid. I think the obvious answer is the Penguins, but I want the Penguins to be as good as long as they can be. I'm gonna celebrate the Penguins for every day that they are good to very good, until, of course, that comes crashing down, which it will.
Yeah, I mean, the Penguins are number one for sure in terms of teams. And then if you want to go a step below that in terms of individuals, I don't expect Justin Brazeau to be an absolute flamethrower all season long, but we'll see. I'll root for it. But yeah, no, the Penguins are going to stink at some point.
Yeah, I've made a decent amount of money on the Penguins because they just are massive underdogs every night. And they don't seem to be that bad. They've been playing pretty well. I think you could probably throw Evgeni Malkin into that same box towards the top of the league in points. It is not 2012 anymore. On the flip side, what team that or player do you feel has had a slow start that you think will improve here as we get through, October into November?
I need to ask, do the Oilers even qualify for this? Or is it just like that's the free space?
I feel like that's a free space.
Okay, free space, that doesn't count. Leafs then. I'm in on the Leafs this year. They need to figure out how to exist without Mitch Marner, apparently, but I think they're going to, and I think that ultimately they'll look like a much deeper team than they've looked like.
Yeah, I'll say Tampa, and they started to turn it around already, but like Tampa, I don't fully believe in them as like a contending team because I just don't know if the depth is there. But the front half of their lineup is so good and will carry them to being at least relevant this season. And they've turned it around to a certain extent. So I expect Tampa to be back in the mix.
Yeah, the Maple Leaf stuff is so interesting. Like, life without Mitch Marner for the first time ever has not gone well. But let's talk about the free space for a second. Like, the Edmonton Oilers, what do you guys think is going on there? Like, it is so bizarre.
Yes, I think it's a couple things because Merrick asked us this last week, and I didn't really have a good answer immediately. I just probably said a bunch of words because I really just take the fact that the Oilers struggle at the beginning of the season as a given, and I don't really put much thought into why. And the more I've watched them, the more it's partially that they've missed Zach Hyman, but a kind of underrated part of all this is Leon Draisaitl, despite being near the top of the league in scoring, should have like 8 more goals. He's missed a lot of, he's either hit the post or just missed the net on a lot of like those Leon Draisaitl low angle goals, which makes sense for any person who isn't Leon Draisaitl, but usually those go in. So I'll say that right now, I'm not going to suggest that like Leon Draisaitl is struggling because obviously the numbers are there, but I think that a lot of the extra magic that you get from Edmonton star players just is not there right now. Part of that's Bouchard. Part of that's Hyman for not being there at all. Part of that's McDavid for not scoring as much. And like I said, part of it is that like Draisaitl could have even more than he's given.
Yeah, part of the McDavid thing that I'll throw in there too is that just like he is not shooting. Like he does not shoot the puck. And we saw how long it took him to get his first goal. I feel like at some point there will be, if there hasn't been already, like a push from the inside to just say, like, shoot the goddamn puck, please. And he will, like, and he'll start producing as a result of that. Like, I just throw the month of October and to a certain extent November out the window when it comes to the Oilers. Especially like we talked to Zach Hyman last year and he was talking about how difficult it was to come back from the previous season's playoff run, start the season and like be in full gear to start a regular season. I think that just that mental shift takes a little while too.
Yeah, Jeff Merrick brought that up the other day on the sheet. He was talking about how like everybody talks about it around the Florida Panthers, but nobody really talks about the team that lost the Stanley Cup Finals, playing just as many games and having to turn around and get back to it the next season. I talked about the Oilers power play last week. They basically were averaging like 0.75 goals below expected on the power play per game. It's turned around a little bit. Hopefully they continue to turn a corner. Let's talk about What Chaos for a little bit now. You guys have obviously had a lot of hilarious interviews before we hopped on here. We're talking about Dylan Gunther and just how hilarious that interview was a couple weeks back. If you had to create a starting lineup, an NHL starting lineup of the funniest players that you guys have talked to, who would be on that lineup?
Okay, so we wrote some down, and we'll throw in honorable mentions as we go because we'll probably forget some. Brad Marchand is the beginning and team captain. He's the captain of this team. Newcomer Dylan Gunther, we just had him on, but he's a very important part of this team. And we've got to go with an old friend who's made multiple appearances, both as an interview subject and as a translator. Who's that? That's Kirill Marchenko. Kirill Marchenko has come on to be interviewed, and he's also translated for Dmitry Voronkov. Just one of the coolest guys in the league. We love him. Honorable mention up front, Jeff Skinner, Connor Bedard, Nick Foligno, Taylor Hall has been awesome.
Seth Jarvis. But Jarvis is more like a mercenary where like he will go on anybody's podcast and be a top tier guest. Like us getting something special out of Seth Jarvis does not feel as rewarding because he's just he's a cheat code for podcasts.
But like we were like the Blue Jackets tipped us off when we were making content with them. They were like, you know who you actually want is Kirill Marchenko. We were like, you say so. And we do ask teams when we'll like request a player and we'll say, we'd love to have this guy, or if there's someone who you think would be good for our weird stuff. And I mean, Marchenko, amazing. Talking about Red Pandas all day. On defense, sticking with the Blue Jackets, Zach Werenski, great interview, really smart guy, and just one of our favorite players. Nikita Zadorov. I would say like top 5 funny interview guests we've had. The only one who's come in, Pete said flamethrower with Justin Brazeau. Just flamethrower in terms of just like flaming us the whole time, being mean, making fun of us.
By far, our most well-researched guest was Zadorov because he came in, he knew stuff about both of us individually, was throwing jabs, very much like his on-ice play, high-event podcaster for sure.
Definitely. Honorable mention on defense, Rasmus Dahlin. So great. Also, Sean Dursey.
Yeah.
A lot of guests, a lot of people you got to love. And then in net, I don't know who you start, but it's Ullmark or Swayman. Those are the 2 goalies. We got to reunite them. We've had them both on together, and they've been magic. Ullmark's come on separately. Apologies to Joey Decord. Much like all of the countries with whom he could have citizenship, we unfortunately had to leave him off, but Decord is an all-time guest.
I mean, Decord got the nod for the USA over Dustin Wolf.
That's right.
So apologies to Dustin Wolf. He hasn't been on the show, so.
Yeah.
The What Chaos lineup could do some damage in the NHL, and I think maybe smart to keep Rasmus Dahlin and Brad Marchand separated for now.
Yeah.
For now.
I mean, if we're like, not to say that we could build a better lineup if we're like actually going for playing hockey, I'm sure there's some guys we could sub in some better players than others, even though all these players are great. But I mean, a roster or a starting lineup that has Brad Marchand, Kirill Marchenko, Nikita Zadorov, and anybody else is going to be hilarious.
Be a lot of shit talk on the ice, without question. Let's get to Frozen Frenzy. Obviously an exciting night across the NHL. All 32 teams in action. Staggered start for basically the only time the entire season you can actually watch hockey games that aren't all at intermission at the same time. So let's build a 16-game parlay. Hopefully we can go 16-0, win the listeners some cash. Let's go. We'll alternate picks here. I'll start us off with Toronto versus Calgary. And as much we talked about it, as much as the Maple Leafs have struggled to keep the puck out of their own net recently, the Flames have been so bad offensively, I'm not sure I'm even worried about them scoring much. So I'm going to go with the Maple Leafs on home ice. DJ, you've got the Philadelphia Flyers hosting the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins, one of the only 4 teams on the second half of a back-to-back. Right.
So I'm glad you noted that. The Penguins will be on the second half of a back-to-back. So I'm still picking the Penguins because it's the Penguins. And I'm enjoying, like I said at the beginning, I'm enjoying the Penguins being randomly good until they're not randomly bad. And I think that even on a back-to-back at home against Philly is a winnable game.
Pete, you've got Carolina and the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Carolina because Vegas has looked a little bit mortal over the past few games, and Vegas took the first one, but what was it, about a week ago? And so Carolina's out for revenge. They're on home ice. They're a little bit hotter right now.
Speaking of home ice, I chunked that Pittsburgh-Philly game is in Philly, so I'm not changing my pick and still going with the Penguins.
Carolina expected to get a little bit healthier again tomorrow as well. Shane Gostisbehere, one of the players, looks like he's going to be back in the lineup. Buffalo and Columbus, to me, it's a tricky one. Both these teams very good offensively and not so good defensively. Right now, we've seen absolutely insane shootouts between these two teams in the past, but that Tage Thompson 5-goal game sticks out fondly in my mind. So I'm going Sabres. Keep the vibes high in Buffalo right now. DJ, you've got Florida hosting the Ducks.
Okay. Florida, obviously not off to a great start. They've also had the Stanley Cup hangover. They've been injured, but they just blanked the Golden Knights. Like, they're starting to find themselves a little bit, and they're at home. Give me the Panthers in a Joel Quenneville Bowl.
Pete, you got the Boston Bruins versus the New York Islanders. The Bruins second half of a back-to-back. Jonas Korpisalo expected to be in net against Ilya Sorokin there.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Islanders there because Bruins, I think that they're going to win. This could age poorly because it's looking in the past on a game that already happened. I think the Bruins are going to beat the Senators on Monday night, and I think they're going to lose Tuesday against the Islanders.
I've got Nashville hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think this one's pretty easy. Pete, you mentioned the Lightning seem to finally be turning a corner a little bit here. Meanwhile, the Predators, no Roman Josi. They are just awful defensively. The PK is terrible. I think there's just too much talent in Tampa to not score against the Predators. Back to you, DJ. Minnesota hosts the Winnipeg Jets.
Okay, the Wild have lost 3 straight. They just need this one so badly that I'm giving it to the Wild on a something's got to give.
Pete, you got St. Louis hosting the Detroit Red Wings. The Blues just blew a 4-0 lead to the Red Wings over the weekend to lose 6-4. They get redemption here in the second half of back-to-back for them as well.
Nope. Red Wings.
I've got Dallas and Washington. Dallas hosting the Capitals. Both teams probably going to be without their top two centers. Rupe Hintz out for the Stars most likely. Dylan Strome's already been ruled out for the Capitals. Both teams are very good, but I think I trust the Stars a little bit more on home ice. DJ, Chicago hosting the Ottawa Senators, who will be on the second half of a back-to-back with Linus Ullmark between the pipes.
Yeah, so Blackhawks at home against a team that's on a back-to-back, I think that the math is kind of easy there. I won't overthink it. Give me the Blackhawks.
Pete, you've got the Avalanche hosting the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Devils are hot, man. Devils are so hot. But Colorado's such a good team, and like all streaks are meant to come to an end at some point. And you know what? Give me the Avs.
They got to be fired up after losing to the Boston Bruins. The Edmonton Oilers against the Utah Mammoth. This one is in Edmonton. I think this is probably the trickiest game that I've had to pick. We just talked about there's just something up in Edmonton. I don't know what it is. I'm also 10 toes on the Utah bandwagon right now. But this Oilers team has to get right eventually. And they were 3-0 while outscoring Utah 15-5 last year. So reluctantly, I'm going to go with the Oilers. DJ, you got Vancouver hosting the New York Rangers, who seem to be the most inconsistent team in NHL history.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in the Canucks right now, but I have less faith in the Rangers. So just give me the home team, which is the Canucks.
Even with a JT Miller revenge game?
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Electric stuff. Pete, you've got Seattle hosting the Montreal Canadiens.
Give me Montreal, because Montreal will probably find a way to stretch it into a 65-minute game, but they'll win that game.
And DJ, I'll let you have the final pick. So if we're sitting here tomorrow, 15-0, it's coming down to you. San Jose Sharks hosting the Los Angeles Kings.
Okay, the Sharks have barely won 2 of 3, which makes them the hottest they've been in like 4 years. So even though I'm a believer in the Kings this season, I just want to keep the fun thing going. Let's go Sharks probably in overtime.
Very nice. There is your 16-game parlay for Tuesday's Frozen Frenzy. Pete, I think you might be responsible for breaking the Sharks streak there. I think you were the one that brought it up on your show that they were losers of 17 in a row, and then they promptly ended the streak. Fellas, thank you guys so much for joining me. If you want to let the people know where they can find What Chaos this year.
Yeah, on YouTube is a primary location. We love our studio. We love our graphics and our presentation. But if you can't catch it on YouTube, we're also on podcast platforms. But the important thing to know is Monday through Thursday, we got a brand new episode every day. And we're live at noon, but it's available after the fact whenever as well.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we can go 16-0 tomorrow and have a great rest of your Monday.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for watching this video. If you want more great fantasy hockey and betting content from myself, Carter Hutton, Matthew Barnaby, and the rest of the DFO analysts, make sure you subscribe to the DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel today and never miss a minute.